Okay, so I a little bit probably alluded to our goals. Obviously, today we want you to learn more about the Data Integration Toolkit. Um, we have had a data integration toolkit posted on our website for several years, but what we've done over the last 18 months or so is take a hard look at that toolkit, um, and apply some of the learning that we have done as states have implemented Generate, as states have gone through the process, and as we've developed tools and templates hand in hand with states. And we've applied our project management knowledge so that we have a new and improved revised toolkit to share with you today. And so we're going to dive into that and learn more about how useful it is for data integration projects and for all types of IT projects. We also really want to focus in understanding your potential role in the toolkit. So if you're from a state, which most of you probably are, what does the toolkit mean to you as a Part B data manager, or as a person who works in IT, or as a data governance coordinator? What is your role in this toolkit and in the project? So we want to really dig into that with you. And just lastly, understand how the steps and all of the tools can support any IT project, as I said before. So we think that the toolkit is perfect for Generate, but it's also excellent for lots of types of projects. All right, I'm still talking. I keep thinking it's Emily's turn. So the data integration toolkit is made up. We have 5 steps, and we'll dig into those later. And under each step, it's divided into tasks and into the smallest unit, which is activities. And we'll look at all of those. Hopefully, it will be interesting. We also have lots of tools that accompany. We'll talk about those too. We have sort of templates so that at every step of the way, the project is supported, the team is supported, documenting, planning for sustainability, and really running a project in the most efficient manner. Just to note that this toolkit is aligned with CEDS. Generate um, is aligned with CEDS, and you will see that throughout. I think that was everything about the toolkit that I needed to say here. And I'll
Thanks,
hand it to Emily for team.
Thanks, Lindsay. So it's important as we look at the toolkit and as you are thinking about your role as we dive deeper into the toolkit, it's important for all members of state data integration teams to sort of like know the toolkit or review steps in the toolkit. Partially not just so that you recognize your role, but also how your role interacts with other roles and activities and actions related to the toolkit. So the roles and responsibilities for each state varies greatly. In some states, some folks play multiple roles shown on this diagram, and in other states there might be multiple staff individuals that serve in that capacity. So you could have multiple EdFax coordinators in a particular state, where another state has their EdFax coordinator, their data governance coordinator, and maybe IT staff are all one and the same person in some cases. So in like the early steps of the toolkit, you all as states get to sort of determine like who needs to be a part of the conversation and for which part of the work. And we try to help identify that work using various tools that Lindsay mentioned, but it helps identify what role those individuals are playing. We kind of refer to data stewards and subject matter experts according to a couple of definitions, which you'll see throughout the toolkit. So a data steward is a role that particularly requires working directly with the data, potentially implementing business rules and reviewing data quality. So somebody with more of a data focus, a subject matter expert who has the real deep knowledge of a particular program area and the requirements needed to sort of inform those business rules, and may also have some real expertise with the data, but is their primary focus is that deep program knowledge. So another example or another thing to consider as you're reviewing or thinking about and looking through the new toolkit, again, folks may play different roles. So an EdFax coordinator might also, or a Part B data manager, other positions might serve as a data steward or a subject matter expert or both. So just depending on what role they play in that particular task or that particular activity. So back to you, Lindsay.
Exactly. And we're gonna, I think when we go into the breakout rooms, we'll share a little bit more about, you guys can share your roles in the chat, and we'll dig a little deeper into that. Okay, so actually also a side note is that the new version of the toolkit went live today. I'm going to pop that in the chat right now. So if you want to follow along or check it out later, you can. We're very proud and very excited of this. And I'd like to thank the entire team. Just about every single member of SID worked on this, including past members. I saw a couple of you in the chat. Lots of people contributed to this toolkit over the years and to really thinking hard about the best way to do this work. Okay, so the steps of the toolkit, I'm going to talk very briefly about those, and then it looks like we're going to have plenty of time for our breakout rooms. So the first goal is defining the goals for integration. It's so important in the beginning of the process, before you start mapping, before you do anything, is to think about what is your goal for doing this. There can be many, many different reasons that states start a data integration project using Generate. There are states who have an SLDS grant, and that is a small part of that, and they're overhauling a large amount of their data system, and installing Generate is one piece of that. There are states where Generate is going to be an amazing solution for integrating their data, and it's sort of a smaller scope on the larger scale, rather than being a small piece of a large project. And that's okay, it doesn't matter. But a really important piece is defining your goal, deciding on the scope, and beginning to lay that plan out. So that's step one. And then in step two, based on all of those discussions you've had in your state, you'll actually create your project plan. We have a new tool, which we can email out at this time. It's not yet on the website, so it's a little bit like a sneak peek. We have a project planning tool that has tabs for each area of work, so that we have a tab for your data calendar. We have data stewards and sources, roles and responsibilities. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in a couple minutes. But steps 1 and 2 are those foundational pieces where you're doing your documentation, you're laying careful plans, and you're mitigating risk. You're getting ready for the actual meat of the Generate project, which is what lots of folks want to jump into, which is step 3, where you map your source data elements to CEDS and you do your data mapping. And then in step 4, where you actually get to install Generate and create and perform your extract, transform, and load procedures, or ETLs. And steps 3 and 4 are ones that you get to dig into multiple times as you do different data collections. So you install Generate one time, but you're going to map and write your ETLs and validate your data for your discipline data. You're going to map, write your ETLs, and validate for child count, et cetera, et cetera. So 3 and 4 are iterative. And then step 5 is the last, but it also very, very important for sustainability, where you document all of the new data submission processes that have been created by adding Generate, and by needing to maintain your maps, and needing to maintain your ETLs, and conducting an after action review. We have after action reviews built throughout the toolkit, and it's so important to take an active role learning from how you're working and from lessons that you're learning along the way. So those are the 5 steps.